that was my MO. I dive right into well, you need this, you need this, you need this. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. Talk to you later, bye.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Campfire Capitalism. I am your host, Desmond Dixon. And today, once again, there's no Queen Heather. I have another queen, Miss Deborah, on the show. And she's going to talk about a lot of fun stuff that we all like, which is sales and the creativity in sales. And what's really awesome about Deborah is she's the owner and CEO of Dialogue Consulting, teaching creative people how to sell. So all those people out there who are, creative minded and design, like this is an episode for you, because she's also going to talk about her contrarian view of how to sell and how to do it creatively. So Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Desmond. I'm so thrilled to be here. And I have to tell you, this is my very first podcast, so I'm really excited and thrilled.
Yeah, awesome. We love that. So let's show some love here today. So before we kind of jump into your zone of genius, talk to us a little bit about your personal journey of, how you got to this point and, who is Deborah? How did Deborah become, who you are today? Pretty curious.
Great. I started out, I have a degree in interior architecture. I knew I wanted, my whole family is creative. My dad was a musician. My mom was a salesperson. My whole family is very creative. And I knew I wanted to do something creative. I didn't quite know what it was, but when I was about 27, I decided to go back to college. I got a degree in interior architecture. And off I went into the world thinking I was going to be an interior designer. And I love design. I love the industry of design. I did not like being an interior designer. So I was, pain pushes you. And I was in a lot of pain being an interior designer because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And so I was encouraged to go into sales, which I thought was kind of crazy, but I just knew that I had to do something else. So I applied for a lot of jobs. Got a lot of rejection. It said, oh, you don't have enough experience. Where do you get it from? Blah, blah, blah. But I finally found someone who saw in me something that sparked an interest. And so I got into outside sales, selling product to interior designers, did that for about 18 years, got into management, regional manager. And then my last job, and I'm admitting this to the public for the first time. A lot of people in my life know it, but the public doesn't know it. I actually got fired from my last job. I made this guy a lot of money, but I wasn't playing the game, I guess. I'm not great at that. And I actually ended up getting fired. And so I thought at that moment, after I got through my pity party for a week and my shock, I decided to open my own business, which I did in 2001, September of 2001. So it was a great time to open a business, September of 2001. But I did. And all I did was really call people that I had worked with, that knew my performance, that knew what I did. And I ended up getting clients right away. And really, the rest is history. It's been a wonderful, I've never regretted not getting another job. I love having my own business. I love being my own rainmaker. It has its ups and downs, but it has many more ups and downs. And so that's how I got to where I am today.
Being your own rainmaker. I love it. We don't bring any umbrellas to the rainmaker show. We love it. So this is interesting. So like your ability and your willingness to be flexible and shift is very apparent. Like that's a very clear pattern to, spend so much time doing one thing and be willing to shift away from it because it wasn't in alignment. Like you didn't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. And the same thing with your job, right? Like when you decided to, when you did something else, you didn't immediately go back. You're willing to shift because you wanted to change to make sure that your outcome was a desired alignment. So like, I'm very curious, like, because you mentioned that, you built a reputation and you had this network of people and that made it really easy for you to, transition to your own business. So talk to me a little bit about like the value of like building social capital through reputation. If someone who is in the beginning of their career, maybe they're only a year or two in, like what's some advice you can give this person to set themselves up to be successful when they, let's say they start a business, or, to have a really great network of people that they could tap into? What's some advice you could share?
To me, it's so simple. It boils down to, and, I'm a baby boomer. And so my parents raised me with an incredible work ethic. Both my parents had unbelievable work ethic, and they didn't do it for the money. They did it for self-satisfaction. My mother loved what she did. She was a salesperson. She didn't make a ton of money. My dad was a musician. He surely didn't make a ton of money, but they really showed me by example that if you do what you love and have self-fulfillment, money's important. We got to pay the bills. That's important, but it falls secondary. And I've always said this: if you find what you love to do, the money will come to you. The mindset is what really sets the path. That's what starts to set the path, is your mindset. And I talk about that when I train salespeople. It's so much about your mindset. So if you really find that niche that you just love to do, that brings you personal growth, personal satisfaction, I think the money just starts coming to you. And, the second part of that, which I was taught always as a kid, is just keep your nose to the grindstone. It's pretty simple. It's not brain surgery. Just keep your nose to the grindstone, become that valued person. Because if you just keep focused on, this is the task at hand, this is what's going to really bode well for my company, my client. I always tell people, Desmond, that you have to be more concerned about the health of the company than you are for your own ego. Put your ego aside and just do things that are for the best of the company, and that brings you what you need, to move on into your own business, into another job. I never burnt bridges. Ever, ever, ever. And I always focused on what was good, what was best for the company, putting my ego aside, putting my emotions aside, just what's best for the company. And that's what's going to bring you value. That's what people value.
Man, I love, you kind of have that old school approach to, you have to work, right? Especially when you're first starting out. I interview dozens of really successful people in all different industries. I just did an interview with an e-commerce young lady, multiples, built a pretty much $100,000 a year plus e-commerce business. And she literally just said something very similar to you in terms of consistency and mindset. And it sounds so cliche, where people keep hearing about mindset this and mindset that, but you literally are stuck with what's going on in your head 24/7. Even when you're asleep, you're stuck with it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's super incredible. So talk to me a little bit about, I think this is super valuable. You usually work with people in the creative space, right? And that's its whole bucket. I have a bunch of creative friends, and some of the common things I hear a lot is, I'm not really a business person, or I just want to pick up the camera, or I just want to draw, or I just want to do this. I don't want to, do sales or operations or marketing. I'm not good at that stuff. So what's something your philosophy around shifting, that mindset to then use your strengths and your ability, to help use those strengths and help you with sales, to be a creative salesperson or a creative seller? What's your thoughts, your philosophy on that stuff?
I am a very creative person. I've been really blessed with, there's the right side of your brain, which is the creative side. There's the left side, which is the analytical or business side. And I've been very blessed to have a sort of a 48, 52, whatever it is, ability that 52 of me is creative and 48 is analytical and business. And there's two things that I tell people. One is, sales really is creative. If you're a creative person, it's your job to figure something out, to get a problem and then to solve it. That's a creative person's problem, no matter what, whether you're a person that takes photography, whether you're, however you are creative, as an interior designer, that's our job. So I think we put these boundaries on ourselves and say, oh no, we can't sell. Oh no, we can't. Oh no, it's just impossible. And that again boils down to mindset, that you think that you can't do something. The truth is you can, if you learn to find the path that it's like when I was in design, I couldn't find that path. So I had to shift to do something else because I couldn't find that path that I thought interior design would bring to me. So I shifted to something else and found something that's very creative, and that was sales, because it really is creative. So that's one thing I think. The other thing is, if you really are that person that you feel that you really cannot sell, outsource it. Find somebody that will do it for you. There are things I'm not really strong at. I know just enough about technology to be dangerous. So if I don't know something about it, I will outsource it. I mean, I think one of the strengths of a great leader, whether it's a self-employed person or a leader of a $700 million company, is knowing your strengths and knowing what you're not really good at. And we're all that way. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And the best leaders know that. They pinpoint it, and they surround themselves with people who can be supportive of the goal they have in mind. Those are the best leaders. The people that fail, I have found, are the people that think they know everything, and they go on that mindset of thinking they know everything. So it's twofold. One is that you can learn that sales is very, very creative, and you can learn that if you keep an open mind. Or if you're absolutely, I am not doing this, like I am not going to build my website. I know how, I can do it. I'm not doing it. It is a total waste of my time. I don't want to learn how to do it. It's not good. So I'll outsource that. So that's how I see it, how I approach it, and how I teach people.
That's some pretty powerful stuff. I mean, that's becoming a business owner, right? Like, hey, I'm not good at this. Like, for instance, I'm not good at producing podcasts and video editing and audio and creating clips. So like, I'm going to pay someone to do that because I charge $377 an hour for my time. So me spending 10 hours on this is me spending, close to $4,000 for me to do. I'm paying myself, right? So I think that's super incredible. So let's talk about let's go a little bit deeper into your philosophy in terms of like what you think in terms of the sales process. Cause I'm a sales guy. I love talking with other salespeople. So what's like, talk to me about like your philosophy of going from A to Z, from, let's say, you meet someone that's an ideal customer of yours. Let's say that they are, in the market for someone. I'm giving you a scenario, like they're in the market for something. They actually have someone they're actually using right now, but they're open to ideas. Like, how would you, use your skills to, take that from A to Z kind of process, like high level? You don't have to go into super detail, but high level.
Well, I have a system that I teach, which is called Gusto. And it's an acronym. It stands for greeting, uncovering needs, solving needs, taking orders, and optimizing the sale. And I think there is the most underplayed, because I'll give you an example from my own business. When I first started my own business, I know a lot about my industry, a lot. I can look at something and automatically know what the resolution should be, and I say should be, for that client. And when I first started trying to get clients and interviewing them, clients that I didn't know my work, I hadn't experienced work with, I would ask them a couple of questions and say, so what are you dealing with? And they'd say, well, low sales, or, OpEx is really high. And I would dive right into the solution. That was my MO. I dive right into well, you need this, you need this, you need this. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. Talk to you later, bye. And I'd never hear from them. They'd disappear. I could call them 1,000 times and they just completely disappeared off the map. So what I've discovered over the years, and now what I teach, is you have to ask the right questions of your prospective client. You have to uncover what they need. And I know this sounds, every sales trainer, every person will tell you the same thing. What happens is it doesn't really translate to that person because they think they're asking the right questions. They're actually not. Because every industry has different questions they want to ask, but there are overriding questions that you need to ask your prospective client. And it isn't even the cliche, what keeps you up at night? I mean, it's really very direct questions. It's really direct questions on uncovering their needs. And then the second biggest thing that business owners, creative people, salespeople, whatever, that they tend to have to develop a better skill at is listening. It's truly the most important thing in selling. And most people don't really have those skills of really listening. And I mean, really focusing, not coming up with preconceived ideas, not coming up with solutions, not being in your head, but being in that other person's space and really listening to them, looking at them in the eye. All of these are really important, and listening to them, because you'll find not only top line information you need, but you'll see things in between what they say that are really important, but only if you ask the right questions. And I can give you an example of that. A quick example in the industry I'm in, which is the interior design, interior product industry, people will ask a few top line questions. What are you looking for? What size does it need to be? Like they're selling a sofa. What size does it need to be? Where is it going? And that's all they ask. The important thing they miss is, when do you need this by? What's the installation? All of these really important questions they forget to ask. They're not taught to ask. And then products and services always need to meet a level of criteria. It can be all the way to 10 things that something needs to pass. You need to ask those questions and look at it through the lens of the buyer instead of your lens. So it's not about what you do. It has nothing to do with what you have, what you do, what you're selling, nothing to do with that. I don't even care if they come to you. It still has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, are you going to meet my needs? And that has to pass a certain amount of criteria. And I lay all that out in my sales course. I lay out all the criteria that it has to pass. And you better ask questions so that you pass all that criteria. Because if one is missing, whether it's price, whether it's whatever it is, one thing is missing. And I don't believe in closing. I don't. I believe you close when you pick up a phone and start talking to a client. That's when you start closing. Because if one of those criteria is missing, you're sunk. You're not going to make the sale. And that was a mistake I made. I knew what they needed, but I needed to know what they wanted and needed, not what I thought they needed. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
I know I tend to circle, but that's my creative mind.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with the ethos on a super deep level. Like, this is crazy. The first thing I usually teach the exact same thing you said, like active listening, empathetic listening, like literally sitting and receiving the information with the intention of repeating it back directly to them, so that then your brain isn't like, oh, I like that goat, I like that cookie. And then like you're thinking of how you're going to respond halfway through that conversation. And then you might have missed some key pieces of information. Or here's the most important thing. You also look like you're pushing the energy of that you have an agenda and that you don't care what they say, right? Because now you're putting rapport at risk, which is, doesn't matter how big their problem is or how awesome your shiny toy is, they're not going to buy it because there's no rapport. They don't trust you, right? They don't have certainty, right? So I thought that was super fascinating. And I love how you said, in terms of, this is a big deal for me too, Deborah. Like, I got fired from my first sales job in the summer because my come from was what I can get out of it. Of like, I need this sell, and I'm just like, I'm here to sell, and I'm gonna try my best to sell you, and I don't care if and like knocking on doors. And I didn't get one sell, and that switched for me when I did millions a year was when I was like, how can I solve this person's problem? Like, how can I just be of value to them, not attached to if I get paid or not? Right. And I thought that was really cool what you said in terms of, asking them the right questions. It doesn't matter what you think they need. It's about what they say they need, right?
Yeah, and Desmond, one of the things that turned my business around, because I'm very transparent, in 2008, I had one client, bad business model, never did it again. But I had one client that I had worked with for 5 years. We respected each other. I sold his product way before I started working with him. But because of the recession, I was let go because they were afraid. I'm a consultant. That's the first thing to go, right? So for a number of years, I really struggled. And that's because I did exactly what you were just talking about. I'd call people and I'd say, listen, I have this thing, you've got to buy it. I have this thing, you've got to buy it. And I was working with a coach at the time who's very spiritual. I'm very spiritual. And I said to her, I call all these people and they just don't even want to talk to me. They don't want to spend any money. They don't want to. And she said to me, I want to switch that mindset up. And I would like you to think when you call these people that you're being of service to these people. You're not selling them anything. You're actually being of service to them. And if you have that mindset going into a sales process, I'm telling you, it works 100. Completely transformed my business. When I started thinking, I'm not trying to shove something down somebody's throat. I'm really trying to be of service to them. And once you have that mindset of really being of service to them, it completely changes the trajectory. It sounds like that, even though you may not have articulated that, that's kind of what you started thinking is, I want to be of service to these people. I want to help these people. I want them to realize, I even have this on my LinkedIn profile. All I do is clear the path for people. That's all I do. I just clear the path for sellers to sell. I just get rid of all of that garbage in their head. I get rid of all the stuff they're thinking, all the I can't, all the that's ridiculous, all that's impossible, all that I can't ask a client that, it's too pushy. I just refocus them and clear that path for them to step into their own genius. Because they already know how to sell. It's not like they don't know how to sell. All people, you sell. Daniel Pink wrote a book. I think it's called something like Everyone is a Seller. It's probably not that's the title, but it's similar to that. And he says that everyone is a seller. When you're convincing your partner to go to a specific restaurant, you're selling. When you're convincing your kids that you need them to do, you're selling. Everyone sells all the time. They just don't realize that they're doing it, but they are. They're all selling. So everyone can do it. It's just that your mindset is telling you you can or you can't.
Man, that segues directly into once you have that epiphany and you experience it, it gets addicting, right? You can't go back because then your mind is positive reinforcing that activity, and it just compound that skill. And then it leaks into other areas of your life, right? I was using this stuff in sales, obviously in business and all that. But for me, I'm finally I hit another level. I was like, man, what if I do this with everybody I meet, every single person? And so when you make it an intentional of for instance, when I first met you, I'm like, man, I vibe with this. I vibe with Deborah. I was like, man, I agree. There's so much alignment and abundance and mindset and just belief systems. I was like, man, how can I be of service? Who can I connect you with? Right. And I do that with every single person I meet that I vibe with. If I'm man, how can I bring value to other people's life? And I think that in sales, this too, this is a great segue. How important is this mindset in order to build allies and partnerships and collaborations? Because now you're building, let's say your own circle and community, and you're providing business to them. They can provide business to you. They can give you feedback. They can you know what I mean? You have confidants, right? Business associations, business friends, right? So how important, was this mindset? How did this help you in other areas of your business and, you're in your path as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I really believe there's two things that so many more than two, but two that come to mind immediately. One is that people want to know that you're on their side, that the expression, you've got their back. People want to know that. And it's interesting. I'm having right now something with a client of mine that we've worked together for about 3 years now. And he brought me to this new company. He was at one company that I worked with, him at that company. And then he brought me to this even bigger company. And the reason he brought me wasn't because, I'm such a cute little girl or something. I mean, the reason he brought me was because of the value that he saw, because whatever I did with his former company, it helped. It was to his benefit, not to my benefit. It was to his benefit. My benefit comes from, I went to another company that's even bigger. So if you can do that in your life, I think that it boils down to one thing, and we really need this in this world today. There's so much going on in this world. If we are just kind, and if we think of not just ourselves, we are a speck of sand on a beach. But if we think of just being kind, we don't have to roll out red carpets or do something spectacular for somebody, but just to have a mindset of being kind, of having another person's well-being in mind. That's how I always approach my business, my personal life, everything. It's about getting the mindset of, it's me, it's all about me, it's my ego. The more I let my ego go, the more I work on, and I work on it all the time. I'm a big meditator. I'm a big manifester. We talked about that, and we do vibe so much on that. As soon as you get that mindset off of yourself and the spotlight off of yourself and put it on the well-being of not only yourself, we have to have a certain amount of that, but equally for the other person, for really having, I'm a big networker too. I love referring people to other people that I know can use them. And it all comes back. It's reciprocation. It's yin yang. It's whatever you want to call it, but it all comes back. So what you put out comes back. If you put out kindness, if you put out, get my ego out of the way and put that out there, all of the rest of the things are just skills you need to learn. That's all. Being a better listener, being a better person that really understands that other person instead of getting your own self in the way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our audience, this is probably hopefully not a broken record, guys, because I think that it's very important in terms of patterns and hearing these things from different people in different industries and different pathways to show this is evidence of success, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like this very specific topic subtopic came up maybe 6 or 7 times with literally people from all around the country. And I think it's super important for the audience to realize that the power of other people, putting other people's interests in front of you, not being a martyr, so to speak, yes, take care of yourself, get paid, hold your ground, don't be taken advantage of, but putting in the effort of hey, how can I provide value to this other person's life and actually listening to them? Life becomes so much easier, right? It gets so much easier. And I think it also comes down to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I know this came up a few different times of if you're coming from a place of scarcity, obviously your frantic energy is going to be about, can I feed myself? Am I going to be able to pay rent? And all your energy is going towards feeding that need. When you obviously come from abundance, it's more about the top of enlightenment and community and all of that. So, and also real quick, so I know Eric also talks about sales. I had him on, and it's crazy what you just said with when you when you give business to other people, sometimes they send business to you, right? I mean, that happened to me 3 times in the last month. I was kind of wow, this is crazy. Man, why haven't I man, this is nuts. And he was talking about how, you can get creative. Ooh, this is going to be fun. You can get creative and do deals with people who serve similar ideal clients, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is something that you do or something that you teach, but for instance, we both talked, work with the same ideal customer. Let's say ideal customer A, they offer this product, you offer this product or this service. Maybe you work out a deal with him to say, hey, whoever you refer to me, I'll give you X amount of money, right? Like an affiliate commission, or maybe you might, he said he did something creative where he paid for that person's customers' first year of their services if they did business with him, right? So he wins because he's making an introduction, which creates more likely to close. And then the other guy wins because now he's getting a sell on the books, right? With a sticky product, right? So like, have you seen this work in what you do in terms of like in a creative space where maybe, one person does X, another person does Y, and there's like this collaboration where there's joint ventures with customers and like, coming up with like creative proposals or packages in order to, serve the client and get abundance together. Have you seen that in your space?
Yeah, I mean, I see this all the time. And I think one of the things that, one of the mindsets that especially entrepreneurs, but even people that work for companies and it was hard for me too. It didn't come automatically. I worked at it. I worked at the idea of reciprocity. I really worked at that and I continue to work on it. But I see that all the time with sellers where they'll do something for a designer. They'll do something for free for them. They'll do, maybe a wine and cheese for free to get other clients in so that their client can have that abundance. And because they have that abundance, they get more clients, which is reciprocity, because then they purchase more from the person that put out that money, that did the initial output. There's always reciprocity. And if you can think creatively that way, if you can think of, again, taking yourself out of it and think, well, like, I'll give you a great example. I do a lot of volunteer work, a lot, because I believe that is one way that will help not just myself. It fills me up so much, but it does become reciprocity. You never know who you're going to meet by volunteering. You never know who, and I have met people that have actually turned into clients. I've met them volunteering and they've actually then turned into clients. And, it happens all the time. I know that it sounds woo-woo, and I know when you're struggling and you don't have clients, it's beyond, I personally do not believe in affirmations. I can tell myself 100,000 times that I'm young. I'm not. I'll never be young again. I'm not young. I'll never be young again. I could sit here and say it until I am dead, and I'm never going to be young again. So I don't believe in affirmations, but what I do believe is opening your mind to possibilities. That's what I do believe. I believe if you just open your mind, I have seen success come to myself, salespeople, creative people, all different kinds of people that have open minds. As you said at the beginning, I thought my path was going to go one way, and it just took a back turn and went another way. And I never looked back at it. I just thought when my design director said at the time, you're going to be, that was like to me a God kiss, that she said, I don't think you're happy as a designer, Deborah. I think I see that some like really good sales skills here, that you could be a seller. And, 21 years later, having had my business for 21 years, I totally get what she said now. I can look back and say, yeah, that is creative. That is what I wanted to do. So all of this turns into reciprocity. It all does. It all turns into reciprocity. And then I think if you keep an open mind to anything that comes into your life, not being a fool. You're not going to be a fool. You're not going to take on something that gets you in trouble, some Ponzi scheme or something, but just being open to it and thinking it through, and maybe talking to somebody about it. Hey, what do you think of this idea or that idea? And I believe if you just keep an open mind, that's why I meditate every single day, because it opens my mind every day. And I want to give you one more really quick, if I have time, something that happened to me. I'm doing this abundance. It's not really a program. It's a little book. I love it. The author's name, I think, is John Price. And for 40 days, he gives you 10 different sayings about how money comes from the inside, how it's sourced from the inside, that nobody's my employer. And then you meditate for 15 minutes. And last week, I know this sounds crazy, but last week I discovered that a check that I thought I deposited for thousands of dollars into my account actually never went through. And my accountant noticed it. And I called the company and they said, yeah, the check never cleared. And all of a sudden I had all this money that I never really thought, that I already thought I had, but I actually didn't. So it's just keeping your mind open to finding things in very unique, very different ways. And then also noticing them. That's another thing. You need to notice them. Notice them in small ways. Another way this abundance plan worked was I have a friend who never calls me. I'm always the one that calls her. Hey, let's go to lunch. Let's do this. And she's always, yeah, let's do it. And last week, she actually called me and asked me. And I thought, that's it. But I looked at it in a different way and I said, oh my gosh, that's the abundance working. She actually called me. So you have to notice these little things in your life. Notice what comes into your life. Notice those I call them God kisses. Notice those God kisses. And then that gives you the impetus to keep going more, because you start to notice these things. Then you say, dang, this worked. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to notice these things. Just slow down enough to really notice them.
I love it. See the evidence, guys. Woo! See the God evidence. Kisses. Ooh.
God kisses.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I might have to use that if you don't mind. God kisses.
No. I didn't make it up. You can use it.
Perfect. No trademark thing. Cool.
No.
So this was great. So how can people find you? Right. So if they really vibe with you, if they want to learn more about you, what you do, or if you plan on having a show or anything like that, I mean, how can people find you? Because this was awesome. And I'm sure someone wants to learn more.
I think the best way, two ways. One, the way I met you, Desmond, is LinkedIn. It is such a great platform for meeting people. I am very active on LinkedIn. If you want to link in with me, it's Deborah Flate. Just search that in the search engine. Send me an invitation. I'd love to link in with you. I do a bi-weekly newsletter. I'm going to start doing a podcast based on your encouragement, Desmond. I'm going to start doing that pretty soon. The other way is to just email me and put in the title, Desmond Podcast. So I'm sure I know where you came from, and it's Deborah at dialogue, DIALOGUE -consulting.com. That's my website, is dialogue-consulting.com. I'm redoing my website right now, but it's still there. You can find it. So I think those are the three of the best ways to learn more about me. I do focus mostly on the interior design industry. However, I also teach sellers, any creative seller, anybody that is a creative person that needs to learn skills to sell. I'm happy to work with you, happy to coach you.
Boom. Love it. So check out those links in the show notes. And Deborah, this was so fun. And thank you for coming.
You're so welcome. I loved it. My first podcast. Yay!
Boom, boom, boom. It's in the book. She's hooked, guys. She's hooked. So congratulations. You made it to the end. And you just gave us your most precious resource on the planet, which is your time. And we are so thankful for that. If you found this episode to be super informative, feel free to send it out to your friends, share it on a network, email it, whatever it looks like for you. Share the value, because we're on the mission to bring everyone to the campfire and talk value and growth. So consume less, create more, and we'll see you at the next campfire. Peace.